Good morning, Wildcats. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to do annotations for Chapter 17. So Chapter 17 is going to be about an important day in history in 1917, which was National War Savings Day. And you're going to find out what National War Savings Day is, as well as what was going on that day. So I hope that you're enjoying the book so far. I'm really interested to see what you have to say on your assignment from yesterday after you read about Trapp's business proposition to Hattie, and to see what your opinions of him are now that we know a little bit more about him. And I'm curious to see if you think that his treatment of Hattie was motivated by that business proposition or not. So we'll be discussing that in the near future, hopefully. Okay, I'm using a big word today, annotations, and we've used this word in class before too. But all that means is talking to the text, which is probably the term that you had used in elementary school or 7th grade. Okay, and I used that term too in 8th grade as well, but I'm trying to get you to more focus on the more appropriate word for that, which is annotations. That's the professional word for it. So annotations are really just your thoughts as you are reading a text. So every good reader should be thinking while they are reading. Reading is not just about processing the words on the page, it's about comprehending, thinking, asking questions, realizing when you don't understand something, and taking a further step or action to figure out that problem. So for example, if you don't know what a word is, your first course of action should be to go to a dictionary and look it up. If you can't do that, then you want to try to use context clues. Or if you're not sure why a character does something, like what was their motivation behind doing that action, you should look for clues in the text. You should maybe go back a few pages and look and see if there was any kind of indication as to why the character would do that. So it's really important that you are thinking during the test and comprehending that and trying to figure out why a character would say what they say, why they would do what they would do, because that relates to real life, because everybody has a different motivation in life for what they say or what they do, and being able to read between the lines and understand that is going to help you to be more successful in life. So it's also a communication skill when we study characters. We're trying to apply that to not characters, but the people we know in real life and how they act. Okay, so when you are reading Chapter 17 and doing these annotations, this is the standard direction. You guys hear me say this all the time since last August. Complete sentences, and most of you are doing a great job of that. There's still a handful that I sometimes have to write comments on, like, hey, you're missing a period, or you don't have a capital letter, or you're missing a subject. Okay, so make sure you have complete sentences. So just a reminder again, capital letter, subject, predicate, and end punctuation. I have started quite a few answers for you to give you examples of my expectations. I'm going to explain those to you as well in this video. Please proofread and run a spell check. I mean, you are so blessed with Google Docs. I mean, it really does a great job of giving you suggestions for what things should be without even having to go to tools and doing a spell check. So you can do it this way, but sometimes even if you have something typed wrong, it'll just kind of tell you, and you can hover it over and click on it. And do not copy another student's work or work with another student. You guys are all capable of doing this. Talking to the text, there's not one single correct answer, so I want to know what you're thinking when you're reading the test. I don't want to know what your classmates are thinking when they're reading the text. Okay, so this chart, this just tells you the title, annotations, and then you have number, for that's just the number of the talking to the text comment, so that's really not anything you have to worry about or fill in. Here you're going to put a quote from Chapter 17. There's a couple things that I really want you to focus on. I'm going to give you some options for what you focus on in the future on these comments, but I got you started with a few here and a few towards the end. A little note too, you do not have to go in order of the book. I did. I went 204, 205, 206, 207. You don't have to do that. I'm not concerned about that. I just did that to kind of give you an idea of where you would hit those things as you were reading the text. Another thing about quotes, we've talked a lot about this in class, but just a reminder again, you want to set up your quote with a tag. This is called a tag, and that is the character's name or the author's name, and then either how they say it or if they're writing it, okay, or if they're excited about it, you might say exclaimed if there's an exclamation point at the end, or you might say questioned or ask if there's a question mark at the end of it. So you want to put that tag there, author's name and a verb, or character's name and a verb. And then obviously you want to put quotation marks around it. And then at the end, you want to put the page number, okay, and the punctuation at the end. So in this case, she was using a question mark. That goes after your page number, after your citation, we call this. Now, if you have a quote within a quote, so for example, you're quoting the book, but then the character says something within that quote, you put double quotations at the ends of each of these, and then single quotation marks, or you might call them an apostrophe. We call them single quotes when they're being used as a quotation, around what the character says. So this is Kirby Larson writing, the author, and then this is Hattie speaking, the character, and then this is back to Kirby Larson, the author. Okay, label. I have put in all the labels for you. These are the things that I would like you to focus on. So I'm going to go through what each of these means here in just a second. And then the annotation is your thoughts. What are you thinking? And it should relate to this label in the center. So let's go through a few of these. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll give you an idea on a few. So figurative language means that the author is using something like a simile, a metaphor, hyperbole, idiom, etc. There are a bunch of different types of figurative language. If you don't remember those, there's a video out there on Google Classroom as well as on my YouTube channel about figurative language. So here's an idiom. A watch pot never boils. So she's not literally talking about watching a pot to see if it boils. So I want you to figure out what you think she means. As you're reading page 204, you might want to look at what she says after this. That might help you to figure it out. Summary. This is when you are summarizing the text. There's really just one thing I want you to focus on summarizing. I want you to summarize what National War Savings Day was. So what did they do on that day? What happened on that day? So you want to summarize it here. It should be more than one word. There should be a couple ideas that you're summarizing as to how they celebrated or what they did on National War Savings Day. Context clues. Context clues is not the same as the question one. Context clues means you're picking a word that you don't know. It's not a vocab word that we had. You still don't know what it means. And you're using the clues around that word to help you figure it out. So for example, but Traft had a group of roughs lying in the back of the room. So roughs is the word I want you to focus on. I think the definition of roughs is, tell me right here, delete this ellipsis. And I think that they were blank because, what's your reasoning for thinking that? Why do you think that's what the word means? Make sure you get rid of this ellipsis. Okay, take these out. That's just telling you you need to fill in those blanks. All right, inference. Inference again means that you are making an educated guess. So one of Traft's crew says, seem you need a lesson in patriotism, he sneered. Maybe you need to be hauled before the judge. So why would he say this to Hattie? What's your educated guess as to why he would say something like this to her? Okay, question. I didn't give you a quote because this is more of an option for you. It's just a question that you have about the book. So it might be something like, you know, there's a historical reference to something that you're not familiar with, and what is this? It might be something like, why would this character do this? Or what does this character mean when they say this? Please try not to use a word that you could use context clues to figure out. Try to make it a different question here. Figurative language, we already talked about that one. Personal connection. Personal connection. Most of you did really well with this on the Andrew Carnegie unit back when we were in school. But a personal connection, again, for those of you who are still kind of confused about that, is how can you personally relate to the text? Has there been something that has happened in your life that involves you that relates to the text in some way? Okay, so you want to think about that. Okay, not that relates to your friend, okay, but that relates to you personally. Implicit characterization. I have a couple of these. This one I want it for Leafy, this one for Hattie, and this one for Traft. So these main characters that play a role in this chapter. So implicit characterization means you are guessing a trait about that character based upon something they say or do. So whatever trait you are guessing over here should not appear in the quote that you have in this category. So it should be something that you're inferring, you're guessing about them. And again, this one's for Leafy, this one's for Hattie, this one's for Traft. And this one I kind of set up for you. I gave you a quote about Hattie, and I want you to infer a trait about her. Okay, so here you want to guess something about Hattie, and then tell me why you're guessing that based upon this quote. Prediction. A prediction is what you think is going to happen next in the book. So preferably when you get towards the end of chapter 17, I would like you to make a prediction about what might happen in chapter 18 or beyond. So I predict that, I guess this is going to happen. It should have a futuristic tone to it. This will happen in the future. All right, and then literary device is sort of like figurative language, but literary device applies more to things like foreshadowing and symbolizing and theme and that sort of thing. So there's a line at the end of chapter 17 that's really important, and the flag, the American flag, is going to symbolize something that relates to an event that happened in this chapter. So a symbol, again, is a concrete object, in this case the flag, Flag is a concrete object because you can see it, you can touch it, I guess you could smell it if you wanted to, but concrete means you can experience it with your senses. And it should symbolize, or a fancy word for that is represent. It should represent something else that is not concrete, that's abstract, so like an idea. Okay, I will give you a clue here. We talked about the fact before that the flag represents freedom, which is true, but in this chapter it does not represent freedom, so you need to come up with something different. So please don't put the word freedom here. I know we talked about that before as an example of a symbol in class, but it's not representing freedom in this chapter, so you need to think of something else, and it should be something abstract, something you cannot see, touch, taste, smell, feel, etc. Okay, and when I say feel, I mean feel with your hands, texture. Okay, so it should be something abstract that it symbolizes. Okay, I hope you guys enjoy chapter 17, and if you have any other questions about talking to the text, obviously just get in contact with me. I have those office hours every day from 10 till 12 and 1 till 3, so feel free to hop on and ask me if you need help with this assignment. Have a good day.